let's move on with Chapter 2. Chapter 1 focused on verbs. Chapter 2 was going to focus on nouns. And nouns are very, very, very different in Latin than they are in English. Let's spend some time talking about English first. In English, we use what's called our sentences are constructed in the subject, verb, object manner. In other words, we have the subject first, verb second, and then the object. That's how we know what's going on. For example, we can say, Mark likes pizza. And we know that Mark is the subject. I'll underline it once. Likes is the verb. I'll underline it twice. And pizza is the direct object because it's the direct object of liking. What does Mark like? Pizza. In other words, we might say in this sentence, what's going on? Oh, somebody likes. Who likes? Mark likes. What does Mark like? Pizza. This is a way we have to construct, unravel the logic of the English sentence. Let's look at this one. Mark sees a dog. Who is doing the seeing here? Mark. How do we know the dog's not doing the seeing? Because the dog in this sentence is in the object position. We in English uses the subject, verb, object format. There was a time when we would diagram sentences, and you would write the subject over here, Mark, the verb here, sees, that's your sentence, Mark sees. And then over here, the direct object is a dog. And if you wanted to further diagram this sentence, you would go down, big dog, wearing a collar, dog, wearing, and then wearing would have what is he wearing? He's wearing a collar. So you could diagram a sentence. But again, I want to emphasize subject, verb, object. That's how we know what happens. That's how we know who is doing the seeing. How do we know in this sentence here, Mark sees a dog, that the dog didn't do the seeing? Because the dog is in the object position. This is how we work sentences. Jane sees the pasta. Jane sees pasta. Pasta is the object of her seeing. Jane is the subject. She's first. I like pizza. Pizza doesn't like me, or maybe it does. I don't know. I've never had a problem with pizza, but in that sentence, I like pizza. Pizza is the direct object. What's happening? There's some liking going on. Who is liking? I am liking. I am liking what? I like pizza. Pizza is the direct object. Guess what? In Latin, it doesn't work this way at all. Not at all. In other words, Mark sees a dog. First of all, let's be clear. Latin has no word for a, or Latin has no word for the. We say the dog ran fast. Not so in Latin. Dog ran fast. That's what they say. There's no the dog. I see a cat. Nope, I see cat. Could be the cat, could be a cat, doesn't matter. Keep this in mind when you translate, because Latin doesn't use that, but we have to insert those in our English translations because we always use a or the, don't we? I mean, I see cat, that doesn't make any sense in English. We can follow along, but I see cat, that's not good English. I see a cat, I see the cat, depending on what we're talking about. Latin's not going to do that. When you put it into English, you have to make a choice. Let's get back to what I was talking about. Subject, verb, object. Mark sees dog. Dog sees Mark. Dog, Mark, sees. Mark, dog, sees. What other combinations have I not thought of? Sees, Mark, dog, dog. Sees dog Mark. Sees dog Mark. All of these mean the exact same thing in Latin. Doesn't matter what order we put them in. Doesn't matter. Let's use some actual real Latin. The boys, well, here's the Latin word for boys. You don't know that yet. Girls, puellas. Boys, girls, the boys see the girls. There's my sentence. The boys sees the girls. But girls, puella means girls. It's in the middle. Doesn't matter. Now this sentence, pueros, puellae, let me write that a little better. Pueros, puellae, vident. Now the second sentence says the girls see the boys. The first sentence, pueri is your subject and puellas is the direct object. In the second sentence, puellae is the subject, pueros is the direct object. And I can put them in any order. For example, in this sentence number 2, girls see the boys. I can put it in any order I want. Pueros, the boys. The vident, the boys, see girls. Or I could say puellae, pueros. Oh, that's good. Puellae, pueros, vident. That's very Latin. Vident, puellae, pueros. Let's do another combination. One more. Vident, pueros, puellae. The first sentence, just for an example, says something different. But all 4 of these, how many sentences? 5 sentences all mean the girls see the boys. It doesn't matter what order I put them in. All 5 of these sentences mean the girls see the boys. Why is that? Because Latin does not depend on our subject, verb, object order. That doesn't happen in Latin. Latin is what's called an inflected language, a bended language, so to speak. They look at the endings, and the endings are what determine is the subject. And the AE ending, let me change color here just a little bit, and the AE ending on puellae indicates this is the subject. It doesn't matter where in the sentence it is. That AE ending on the end of puellae means that's the subject. Up above, puellas, that AS means it's the direct object. So you can put it anywhere in the sentence you want. And that will, and it's the ending that determines its position, its grammatical use in the sentence. By the same token, let's just use a different color here. Let's use green, that's fine. Pueros, the OS at the end of pueros indicates that this is the direct object. So whatever else is going on in that sentence, it doesn't make a darn bit of difference. Pueros is my direct object. Now from chapter 1, you already know the verb. The verb is vident. Somebody's doing some seeing. And now that you know the direct object, pueros, oh, somebody's seeing the boys. Who's seeing the boys? The girls see the boys. And that is confirmed by the ending of puellae. At this moment, I am only explaining to you the concept. I'm not working, and in fact, for the rest of this video, I'm only going to talk about the subject, verb, object of English. Now we're going to back up a little bit and spend just a bit more time on English. And I want to focus on this subject, verb, object construction that we have. And I want you to spend time the next day or so listening to how we speak. So let's look more at this subject, verb, object construction that we use regularly in English. And the reason is I want you to do that is if you don't understand an object, in English. How can I expect you to discover it in Latin, which gives a little twist? So I want to spend more time on subject, verb, object. And again, let's come up with some sentences. I like pizza. I am holding a pen. You are watching a video. The Knowles lost the game. In the first sentence, what's happening in the first sentence? Like, that's going on. I'll underline that twice. Who likes? I like. What do I like? Pizza. So my subject, my verb, my object are I like pizza. This is my subject, verb, object. What's going on in the next sentence? There's some holding going on. Who is holding? I. What am I holding? A pen. Subject, I. Verb, am holding. Object, pen. What about the next one? What's going on? Somebody is watching. Who is watching? You. What are you watching? Video. That's the direct object. So you are watching is the verb and video is the direct object. Last one, Knowles. What's happening? Well, there's some lost thing going on. Who lost? The Knowles. What did they lose? The game. Subject, verb, object. Let me take a step and remind you of the English present tenses. There's the simple present. I write. I write, I eat, I sleep, I teach, I talk, I walk. There's the present progressive. There's some progression going on. I am writing. I am sleeping, I am walking, I am talking. And then there's the emphatic. I do write. I do walk. I do teach. Remember, in Latin, all of these distinctions are out of the window, out of the door, out, whatever the expression is. Out the window, I guess. In Latin, all translated by one single word. It's up to you as the translator to determine what spin you want to put on the word, because in each context, all of these may be appropriate. Let me back up. In context, one may be more appropriate than the other. So that's fine. So I wanted to remind you of that aspect of it. Get another page here. Secondly, the sentences I've been focusing on in English are active sentences. In active sentences, the subject does the action, the subject does the verb, and the object receives the verbing stuff, whatever is going. I eat the pizza. I do the eating, and the object, pizza, is the recipient of said eating. Passive. And I'm going to spend almost no time on passive, but I want to be sure to touch on it because some of you may be thinking about it. In passive, the pizza, for example, is eaten by me. In the passive voice, the subject receives the action, receives the verbing, whatever's going on. But there's also an agent. The agent is the doer. The clock was, the alarm was silenced by me. The ball was hit by the batter. The race was won by the victor, if that makes sense. All of these are the passive voice. Passive sentences do not have a direct object. If you're uncomfortable with this passive voice, if you're not quite sure what I'm saying, I'm asking you to hold off just a minute then. A little bit longer than a minute. Because right now we're only focusing on the active. Then there's the intransitive, that is neither active, intransitive. The intransitive is neither active nor passive. It's usually with the word be. I am hungry. Hungry. There's no transference of action, in other words. I am hungry, he is tall. And it's not just the word be, like it can also be become. He becomes president. But there's no transference of action. And that's why it's called intransitive. Let me go off track for just a second. In is a prefix, often means not. Trans means to go across, okay? We have Trans-Am. What's Trans-Am do? Goes across America. What's Trans-Pacific Flight? Oh, it goes across the Pacific. What's the Transcontinental Railroad? Oh, it goes across the continent. Trans means across. Itive, that's just a little word in Latin that means go. Like exit, compare, exit. Exit, goes out, he goes out. That's literally what the word exit means in Latin. He goes out, or she goes out. So intransitive means it doesn't go across. There's no transference of action. So as opposed to I hit the ball, choom, there's transference. I hitting a ball, boom. But with an intransitive verb, there's none of that business. So I want to be clear. We are only talking about the active voice right now. In English and in Latin, we rarely talk about the passive voice. I believe in English you're taught, do not use the passive, do not use the passive, and that's fine. There's a place for it, but in general are the sentences that use the subject, verb, object format. The active sentences is far more prevalent than passive. And intransitive, I'd be hesitant to put a weight to it, but intransitive are not complicated. I am hungry, you are late, we are tired. All of these things are intransitive, and we use those quite frequently. But it's less complicated from my perspective, in my observation, it's less complicated than the active voice, which uses the subject, verb, object. Here's an assignment, homework assignment number 2. Listen for the next 2 days or so and provide me 10 sentences that you've heard out in the wild. 10 sentences, or maybe you've read them, maybe you've heard them on the radio, maybe you've said them, maybe your friends have said them. Give me 10 sentences that follow the subject, verb, object format. And so just give me those, put them in Google Drive. I'll write this out formally. Put them in Google Drive, share them with me, tell me which is the subject, verb, and object. And you can say S equals, whatever, V equals this, O equals blank. Not blank, I want you to supply the answer. But I want you to focus on recognizing in English these parts of speech. Because if you can't recognize them in English, you're really going to struggle in Latin, you know what I mean? So that's why, and furthermore, English is something you use every single day. So whether you know it or not, holy cow, you're using subject, verb, objects all day long. So, in the next video, we'll get into the actual Latin endings. But for now, I want to make sure we're all on the same grammatical playing field. Let me know if you have questions.